A very good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you joining us virtually for the Inspire Talks today. I'm Savina Singh, the Director of Intellectual Property and Commercialization at UKZN InQubate. We had started the Inspire Talks shortly before the lockdown began last year and had to default to virtual sessions. So we're quite excited to be able to have a bit of a hybrid session here today at the UTEL studios on Westville campus. Entrepreneurship has kicked off phenomenally over the last couple of years in tertiary institutions throughout the country. And at UKZN, we've done especially well. In 2017, we were the first university in the country to establish and approve a student entrepreneurship policy. And since then, the university has been putting in funding on an annual basis to support student entrepreneurs to start up their businesses. And it's also been providing training and incubation services. We're very privileged to have with us today the acting DVC research, Professor Mosa Moshabela, who will be engaging with some of our top student entrepreneurs who will be telling us about their stories and sharing their remarkable achievements. Dr. Salona Pralad, Nozipho Chakane, Nomandla Ngoya, and Trian Amachand are in studio, and Mongezi Dlamini will be joining us from the Inspire offices at InQubate. On that note, I will hand over to you, Prof. Thank you and welcome.
Greetings, everyone who is joining us for the session today. I am very honored to host this session, and we've got some highly esteemed guests with us today who are going to take the time to help us understand what is happening with entrepreneurship in the university and from a student experience, but mostly to really help inspire others, not just students, but also the academics in the university, as well as the leadership in the university. And so, we are hoping that, they will be able to walk us through the basic experiences that they've had, the challenges that they've faced, as well as some of the highlights that they've had in their experiences. So welcome to all of you. I don't know you, people online don't know you. So I would like us to start by making sure that we can get to know you. Just start basically your basic background, tell us your name, tell us what you do, tell us how you ended up here. And then we'll come back to going deeper into the discussion. Let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Salona Pralad. I'm a specialist forensic pathologist. I am a student in PhD student in the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So how I got into entrepreneurship is through my studies.
Yeah.
So from doing my master's, going into trying to do my PhD. So that's how the ideas came up, and I followed through.
Welcome, Tarana.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning. I am Nomandla Ngoya, a very motivated 28-year-old. I am doing my PhD in medicinal chemistry at UKZN Pietermaritzburg, and I'm the founder of a company called DChem Group. DChem Group manufactures detergents and cosmetics, and I started the company as my way of giving back to my community, because I grew up in a rural area where they use the green parcel for everything, and the issue was affordability. So I was able to provide them with affordable detergents, which were of good quality.
Thank you so much, Nomandla. Nice to meet you. You're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nozipho Chakane, the Director of Chakane Hygiene and Cleaning Services. So what we do two things. Mainly, it's the food safety testing, where we assist companies with microbiology and chemistry testing of their products and raw materials and the water that they use in their production, and take air samples as well. And we also do detergents as part, because
so
food
you're in
safety
competition, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because food safety goes hand in hand with hygiene. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Prof. Hi, everybody. My name is Trian Amarchand. I'm the owner of Lail the Label. It's a novelty crayon and paint business. Has nothing to do with what I studied. I'm a criminologist by academia, but I have many passions, and entrepreneurship has just become a new passion of mine. I'm also finishing up my master's, proudly UKZN student, undergrad, postgrad, and probably full PhD level.
Okay, so Sharon, let's start with you then. You're doing criminology, but then you go start something else, not related to what you study. How does that work? I'm assuming that, you know, as a student, you've got a lot of studies to do, you've got a lot of work. And in a way, you don't really want to make space for other things. But then you go and you start, you know, having other initiatives that are not even related to your studies. How does that work? Can you just explain it in simple terms?
Sure. So I'm hoping my supervisor doesn't watch this because I overwork. But, you know, I love that people say that it's not linked, but for me it is linked, because it is about the linkages I see is the learning. And for me, I'm a lifelong learner. Right. And I think acquiring new skills, whether it be in criminology, whether it be in business, is very important to me. And getting that knowledge, learning as much as I can learn, and then passing it on. Getting into the business field, it's a bit of a joke for me, honestly, because I just did it out of Corona lockdown boredom.
Oh, okay.
And I just created these crafts for my daughter, and then suddenly people were asking for it. I am not business minded in any way, so I'm learning on the job. Thank God, my husband is business minded, so he helps me a lot with this stuff. But yeah, the business space, I've always seen it as just something that's you know, not in my field or not something that I do, but the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, oh, there's learning, and there's teaching, and there's networking, and there's talking, and there's TV interviews that you're not ready for, you know. Yeah, it's just a learning experience for me, and I'm loving it.
No, that's very interesting, because already you're introducing a number of dimensions there. One, you've got your studies, but then, as you say, that there could be a coincidence of you doing something out of a hobby, interest, passion, but then that can then become a business. But there's a difference between the hobby and the passion and that then becoming a business. There needs to be some sort of business aspect or arm to it. Like you're saying, that you then need someone who's got the business acuity to be able to help you turn your creativity into a business. And then you add you know, a whole lot of other things that have to do with I suppose, as you say, you know, the TVs. It's this idea that people then have to be aware. Word of mouth, you mentioned. People have to be aware, and then these things now kind of begin to evolve. So you're raising a number of what I see as themes that often we take for granted, and in a way it sounds like it's happening coincidentally, but actually if you really think about it, if we were intentional about it, we could actually make sure that we allow it to happen by design.
Sure.
So let's hear from you, Nosipo. What was your experience?
Of how I got into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm also a master's student. I'm doing medical microbiology. So I used to work in a food testing laboratory, and due to COVID lockdown, business was not doing well, so I got retrenched. But my CEO was like, you know what, I can see that you're passionate about what you do, so I'll give you all the equipment, all the air sampling machines, and you can continue doing it on your own capacity. So that's how it started. But I've always been an entrepreneur. Even at work, I used to help him, with ideas on how we could grow the business. So yeah. So
you mean that for you, you are more business minded?
Yes.
Would you say that? Put your head on the block and say yes.
Yes, because when I was working in the lab, I was a hygiene auditor, so I had to go on site. And every time I would get to like these big and nice companies, other people would think I would like to work here. And I would think I would like to own a place like this, So that's always been my mentality. I've always, wanted to own my own business. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
But you're also raising something important. One is that it's one thing to be have a mindset that's oriented towards entrepreneurship. It's another thing to be able to have the ideas, the innovative ideas that you can then, put to work. But also, you often need that enabling environment and people who could support you, sponsors, that can help you to get started. So you're raising other dimensions there that I think are really important for us to consider. So Nomandla, let's go back to you. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
It was back in 2016. I was doing my internship, the NRF internship, and I was doing my master's at the same time. And I just didn't like the whole routine of arriving at 8 a.m. at work and then you leave at 5, even if you're not productive. So I understand my brain very well. My brain is at its optimum between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. So that's the time where I actually prefer doing all the thinking, and then during the day I want to be experimental. So my supervisor expected me to be at school at 8 a.m. to do whatever work that he wanted me to do. And I just didn't like it at all, especially with chemistry where you are trying out different reactions and it's not working out, and then you try different conditions, it's still not working out, and then you keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So that's where I actually discovered that I want to try different things, I want to experiment different things, I want to solve problems. And I've realized that as chemists, for us, achievement is the number of papers you published. But for me, achievement is actually commercializing whatever research you are doing, and then you turn that into a product, and then you make a business out of it. So I did the internship for a year. My supervisor was a very good supervisor, I have to say. He was very good, but I just didn't like the work space. I didn't like how the things are set up and so on. I actually ended up being depressed. I was hospitalized for 8 days after I finished my PhD, after I finished my internship. And then when I was in hospital, my psychiatrist gave me a task not to open my phone and just see who calls me and see who is noticing that I'm not around at the moment. So while I was doing that task, and I was like, I felt like I had so much free time. I felt like I was able to think. I was able to think about different things. So that's when I was like, no man, entrepreneurship is the thing that I should go into. And then when I left hospital, I went back to UKZN, started my PhD in June, and then that's when I also registered my business. So at UKZN, we are given an opportunity to make some pocket money where we help first-year students with their practicals. So I was also doing that, and then at that time, I was getting paid 1,200 Rand. So in June, I took my stipend and I registered my business, and then I made a 25 liter of dishwashing liquid. I got a graphic designer to design a label for my dishwashing liquid, and then I bought a pack of bottles, and then I started packaging them outside at home because we don't have a garage, so I used to work on the veranda. I started packaging, and then I went door to door, I sold the product, and then eventually it grew to what it is today.
But that's so interesting. And I think one of the things that you are saying that I think is interesting has to do with sometimes being in an environment that does not quite fit well. You have to be in it because it's necessary to be in it, but you feel that it doesn't quite fit well. And in fact, it could, in a way, inhibit your creativity because of the environment that you're in. And yet, if you understand yourself and how you function, as you say, you could actually create conditions for you to be able to become more creative, more productive, and to even think out of the box. It's incredible that it took you being in hospital to actually have the space finally to think creatively, because it shouldn't have happened like that. In an ideal world, we would expect that in whatever environment we are exposing you as an institution, you would have had the space to think like that, right? That's what we would expect. But we'll come back to it. It's really interesting. And I quite like this idea that to some extent, for some of you guys, being creative and innovative and it's almost like it's intuitive. But at the same time, as you say, there is this aspect where you now have to turn it into a business. And many of those aspects one needs to learn. You know, it's not something that you're going to do intuitively. So I would like to get a little bit more in terms of how you guys have been learning about entrepreneurship to translate what you are feeling intuitively and in your mind into something that then seems so practical and it's learned. But we'll come back to it. Let's hear from you, Sharon, in terms of your experience. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
My story is a bit different. I'm a forensic pathologist, and I did my master's in 2018. I completed it, and whilst I was doing it, I found that it was very difficult to do research. So I wanted to make my life easier, as well as further research easier. So I tried to figure out a way where I could take the information that we collect during autopsies and create something where it would have an electronic documentation system.
Right.
But obviously, we don't have the IT technician on hand to create something for us, so we don't have the infrastructure in our department or the funding.
Right.
So I looked at what we do have, and we all have cell phones, right? So I thought of an idea to create an application where we could store all our information. And not only would it store documentation and information, it would also create instant statistics for you.
Right.
So you'd be able to download graphs. And why it's so important for us in forensics is we impact on public health. So all the statistics and information that we collect can be used for interventions, for policy implementation. But because of the current documentation system we have, it's quite, it's not impossible, but it takes a lot of work to do research or to collect statistics. It takes possibly months to a year or years to, and what we need is right here and right now. So like, for example, in COVID, where we needed instant statistics, we get daily statistics now.
Right.
So I thought it was important for us to, in forensics, to do that. And not only to branch off from here, but I mean, NHI also is around the corner here. So if we don't have the infrastructure, what other ways can we maybe roll out something to rural clinics, to rural facilities, and the cell phone, everybody has a cell phone, the nursing staff has cell phones. You know, it was an idea that I had, but it was so difficult to, I'm not an IT student. I'm in medicine. I'm so far removed from that to even enter information on an Excel document takes me time, right? So, so I had to get people on board to assist me. So that took money.
Right.
I first approached the university, but what with COVID and everything else that was happening, students weren't so willing to devote that time. So I applied for funding to EDTA, the Economic Development and Tourism, and they gave me an amount to create the application and to try and pilot it. And so at the moment, it's still at that phase where it's an application that is adaptable. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for forensics. So it can be across medicine or medical departments, across clinics, hospitals, across different facilities, medical facilities. So that is what I created, and it's hard to do that with a full-time job as well.
Right,
you know, to find that time, you have to go after hours. You're filling out funding forms, and you know, after hours trying to get people on board. Even sending out emails, trying to get people to support you, because the information that we collect is confidential and very important information. And to get people on board with something like this, it's hard because not everybody is in the tech space and not everybody understands it. So I had to create something that was very secure and something that people will actually buy into, and think it's good enough for them to have. So I had to approach a lot of people. But the amazing thing is I had a lot of support from UKZN and a lot of support from UKZN InQubate to actually further my idea. And so the idea for the name was from my mom. So my mom was my biggest support. So her name was Kumari. So she was my biggest support, and she passed away earlier this year in February. So I thought the most ideal thing, if she was my biggest support, to name it after her. So that's where the name comes from. But I used a synonym as well to say, it's keeping up with medical and reporting information. So Kumari, to keep it. So lots of things happened between 2018 and me getting my master's and trying to create something that will not only benefit me, but benefit people across the board. So not only medical doctors, it'll benefit the public and public health. So that's what I wanted to do. And not only that, to also benefit research, because that is huge. We need evidence-based practice. That's ideal. So that's what I wanted to, and that's what I created the application.
I mean, firstly, my deepest condolences.
Thank you.
And it's just incredible how you have pushed through. And as I'm listening to your story, it's almost as if there was a lot of drive behind what you were doing. You raise sort of examples of barriers that you've had to overcome, going into a field that's not related to what you've studied, having to approach a lot of people for support, and the personal experiences that you've had, and yet you push through, and working long hours as well. And I think someone also mentioned the same thing around working long hours. And so it seems to me that in a way it takes additional attributes and experiences and determination for one to be able to follow through with an idea that you have. But one of the things that you raised there is the importance of bringing innovation on top of research in the way that we understand standard research. Innovation to solve problems, and to solve problems in a way that can have greater societal impact. And that for me, it's fascinating. And it's almost as if, you need a lot of motivation behind pushing your idea, whatever your reason is, but you need to be clear what it is that's driving what you're trying to do, that's driving you, because then when you now encounter challenges, you need to be able to overcome them. But again, I do want to say that I think it's important for us to learn, from these experiences that you've heard, so that we can also think of entrepreneurship and the program for entrepreneurship at UKZN, to, as you said, to help remove some of those barriers for you. If we can understand these experiences that you've had, and then begin to say, what is it that we can build in our entrepreneurship program to ensure that it helps remove some of the barriers? Because you're going to face barriers anyway. But if we could, as you say, provide support, but then go further to help remove some of those barriers, it would be really wonderful. So let me take a moment to invite Mongezi, who's joining us virtually, and I would like to hear from you, Mongezi, your own experience in terms of getting into entrepreneurship, and then we'll also go further to understand how you set up your business. But first, introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, greetings. I am Mongezi Dlamini. I come from the south coast of KZN. I'm currently studying towards my graduate diploma in supply chain and marketing. I have a background of science, particularly microbiology and cell biology. I'm a founder of a company called Anunaya Gardens, which is a plant-based factory that grows and cultivates plants without the use of soil. We cultivate our crops using solely water in the concept known as hydroponics. However, we put some our sources there and make it a little bit different and make volumes higher than the normal hydroponics that you see in TV and on YouTube. The idea of the company started in class. Basically, we were doing a practical. I think I was doing this second year. My idea is different because it started in undergrad. We're doing a nutrient test in plants. So my lecturer gave our group a plant that and some nutrients. In our nutrients, I think it was potassium that was lacking. So we had to go forth and grow this sunflower seedling, if I may say, seedling without the nutrient potassium. So I was very confused. How can he give us a seedling without soil, but he's just saying we're just gonna wrap this thing with cotton wool and put it in a jar of water, and then we're just gonna pour some nutrients, but no potassium inside the jar. And we did that. We put it in the grow room. Then he instructed us to come back on Wednesday because we're doing the practical on Friday. Then he said each group should allocate a member who's gonna come and check the growth and the effect of the missing nutrient. I just raised my hand in my group that, guys, I'm gonna be the first one to do this. I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna record everything because this what this man is doing here is not gonna prosper. Because I grew up in a farm and I know how plants are grown, and growing plants without soil is nothing that never happened. So I went there and what I discovered was a significant amount of growth, which had some technical difficulties since there was a lacking of nutrients. But I saw that there was growth that happened. And then from there onward, I started researching about the concept. Can you really, Google, can you really grow plant without water? Then Google said, yeah, you can grow plants without water. Then Google, how? Then Google told me that there is a concept that started back in Babylon. People were growing plants in the river Babylon. How did they do it, Google? Then Google started explaining the duckweed and everything. Then I got so excited about the idea that people have been doing this in the 400 BC. How on earth do we not know about this if it's this old? Then I started researching on the concept, and from there onward, I used my NSFAS mind. I just decided that I'm cutting off my NSFAS budget, which was allocated to grocery, to start doing practical research on this concept. I think by the time we were getting 750 rands. So I told myself that from now on, I'm gonna spend 350 on grocery. Then with the 300 remaining, I'm gonna use it as my pocket money, and I'm gonna visit the places which I have found through the internet that are in KZN that are doing this hydroponic thing. I want to see how they do it. Then I visited these places. That's where I saw opportunities in what they were doing already, because I'd like to think I'm someone who's creative. Then I started to see what I can do different from them. Then from there, everything else is history.
Wow. I'm amazed at the story that you're telling us, Mongezi, especially the fact that you started so early in your academic journey to bring about those creative ideas. But also, I think what you're also alluding to is how ideas are sparked, and the interest a person needs to have, and the drive they then need to have in terms of learning more about and doing more research, investigating about the ideas that you come across. Your story is fascinating, and we were busy here chuckling as you are narrating your experiences. But I think maybe what you can do for us now, Mongezi, is tell us a little bit about how you went about setting up your business. We understand how you got into entrepreneurship. We understand how you ended up saving money from NSFAS and pursuing this idea. But tell us a little bit more about how you then went about setting up the business.
Since I've already told you that I was a very scientific student, a biology, hardcore biologist, I approached the office of innovation, specifically UKZN InQubate. At the time, when I approached them, they saw the potential and they saw the passion. However, when it comes to business, it was just there were no lights, but they understood what I'm coming from and the way what I was looking at. But in that, they didn't discriminate me because they saw my low business acumen. However, they taught me as a biology student to write a business plan. It was my first business plan ever in my life. I wrote a business plan, even though it took a while for them to actually accept that business plan. But they helped me through the way of building that business plan. They allocated people to help me as a business to build up that business plan and make sense out of it. And then once that business plan was complete and everything made sense, then they told me that in order for you to do this thing, then you have to show us how it can be done. If you can do it in a lower scale, and then grow it from the lower scale. In that, they gave me the initial funding of less than 20,000 to set up my first ever hydroponic system, and I persuaded some people in Westfield, because I was studying in Westfield. Then I got a space in the research center where I placed my hydroponic system. But let me not take the full credit of persuading the people to give me the space in the Westfield, because I was helped by a gentleman in the incubate office to convince them that actually this guy is doing an entrepreneurship research. You guys should just lend him space for like a year, which ended up being 2 years, because from that research, more things had to be discovered in order to make the business more effective and have a unique selling proposition. Because once I was in, I discovered that there were many people who were into hydroponics, and also there were many challenges that they were facing. So I was very lucky to meet the innovation office and the type of personnel that were there who helped me so much. Because I think if it wasn't for the support that I got from Incubate, I wouldn't be where I am today, or where how and everything that I've achieved, especially in the research side, because they supported me even in the research side. They brought in personnel. They understood that I wasn't a commerce student. Hence, they supported me with people who were to enrich me with business skills, which I lacked completely, up until I got a glimpse of understanding of what am I really doing and how I should actually push this project from a research up into the commercialization stage.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring story. But I think that InQubate will also acknowledge that if it wasn't for your innovative and creative ideas, they also wouldn't have had the opportunity and the honor to ensure that you are supported and you have the necessary infrastructure to do your work. But nevertheless, it does take partnership in what you're saying, and it really requires for one to get out of their comfort zone and learn new skills and new ways of doing things. And I would like to hear more. Let me turn to the colleagues who are here. And you see now I'm calling you colleagues because I'm so inspired by you guys being such leaders already in what you're doing. So Tree, tell us again about how you managed to transition from that sort of passion that you had and turn that into business. We've already had a little bit of a glimpse of the fact that, as you say, if you're not business minded, then it becomes difficult to do it. And yet you can quit there and live it and just do something for fun.
Yeah.
But you managed to kind of pull through. Can you just tell us how that works?
Yeah, I just have to say though that Mongezi, if this farm thing doesn't work out, he could definitely be a storyteller. The way that he says, like, is excellent.
That's right.
So I think that I'm very lucky or very blessed that I have friends that run businesses, and I had one that really sat down and had a tough conversation with me. And he asked me, he said, is this your business or is this your side hustle? So I said, what do you mean? And he's like, no, it's just, you're just doing it because it's a hobby. I said, yeah, it's fun. Yeah. He said, then you can't be in business like that. And I'm not an easily offended person, but I was like, well, that's rude.
Yeah, I'm offended too.
But he's like, if you either in business, all in, or you're not in business. But honestly, I think that this is where it's so important to have the right people speak over you. It was exactly what I needed to hear, even though I may not have wanted to receive it at that time. But it really helped me put into perspective what I wanted to do. Do I just want to, do something and, earn a little bit of pocket money? Or do I want to, one of my biggest goals is to create employment. If I want to create employment, what are the steps I do, whether it's for myself, whether it's for other people? What do I need to do to almost upscale the business and upskill myself? I'm still very reliant on my husband for the maybe technical side of stuff, but I've had to have lots of conversations and almost like teaching yourself what needs to happen and what needs to go on. I think one of the negatives of being completely in academia is that we always see it as it's a very black and white world, but it's not. It shouldn't be. There should be that space and that room for your creativity, for your innovation, for your ideas, because what is the point in being so well educated if you can't follow part of your passions with it to link it? Right. So that was very important to me. And so after that conversation, I started having other conversations with my friends, or some own big businesses, some own small businesses, but just getting a feel for what it's like, what are the challenges you go through? How do you deal with competition? How do you deal when you're not feeling well and you are, I say proudly I'm the owner, but I'm also, the laborer, I'm also the designer, I'm also the packager. So you're all in one. And that's really hard, especially when you're a full-time student, you work. I'm also a mother, I'm also a wife, I'm also a youth pastor. So it's very hard to sort of mesh all of this together. I think that's where it's exciting to have things like InQubate and things like Inspire, where like Mongezi said, they see your passion and it's almost like they see the stuff that you don't see, and in your head it's all like this, but in their head it's like this. Right. So I think just having that even them just getting in a business coach to have difficult conversations and strong conversations has really almost, I'm trying to use the word, like catapulted me into like, okay, you know, this is what I want to do. My husband, I was laughing at him because he was like, oh, you're just like a businesswoman today. I was like, I am a businesswoman.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But
better recognize.
Yes, and I'm quite proud that we're only sitting as all females here. So I hope you don't feel intimidated, Prof. But yeah, it's just those. I think one of the best things you can do as a person who, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you are one, is to surround yourself with people who are entrepreneurs, who are business people, because you will learn so much insight, especially if you don't have that background. So far, nobody has that real background, but it's just learning that insight that you won't learn in a textbook, that you won't learn in a conference, that you'll just learn one-on-one.
Right.
So yeah.
Excellent. Interesting. And I think this idea, as you're saying, the idea of, let me call it connections, because I think when we grow up, most of the time we tend to make this notion that people have connections, we turn it into something negative. We make it look like it's a bad thing. But actually, it is social capital, right? It is all of your resources that are available to you. It is all the support that is available. It's the people who care, who are going to tell you the truth, people you trust. You know, when it's just a stranger, you may not listen, as well as someone who you actually look up to and respect and maybe care about and so forth. But this notion of social capital sounds like it becomes, and your networks, it becomes really important. Each and every one of you mentioned something about that in different ways. And the other thing that I'm realizing, and I have to note this, and Suvina, I hope that you can hear this. All of them, they're charismatic. I don't understand how that works. If they bring that with them, or if is this something that you guys are just all charismatic naturally, or is it when you become a business owner you become charismatic? What, the chicken and the egg, what comes first? I'm not sure. So, but each and every one of you, like, you've got a way of holding my concentration and attention as you're talking, as you're telling a story, but very charismatic. And so I'm also making a note there and wonder if it's one of the prerequisites for being a business owner. But certainly the networks, the connections, the social capital becomes important, especially, I suppose, also as the business needs to grow. It's going to depend on those networks. So let's hear from your experience, Nosipo, in terms of how did you transition again from the point where you've got the equipment, you've been given the support, you've got the passion, you've got the ideas, you've got the mentality, but again, you know, you've got to transition.
Yeah, so okay, after I was given everything, I was like, yay, I finally made it. And then reality started to sink in, where now I had to like put things into action, like go to companies and say, hey, now can I now take over the food safety thing in my own capacity? And then you start to experience the rejection, and people all of a sudden are like, so now you're not working for that big company, now a small company, they doubt you. And I'm like, but I'm still the same person. It's just a different company. And so those were some of the challenges, like the lack of confidence and the paperwork. I was shocked at all the paperwork that goes with having a company, like all the registration, complying with SARS and BEE and liability. With our space, you also need liability insurance and all those things. So it was a big challenge, and also there is quite a lot of challenges. And at some point, I also like got into a mild depression, because I was like, oh my God, I think I want to go back to work. But I think the fact that I love being an entrepreneur has kept me going, because at the moment, we're not making that much of money. So someone can be like, you know what, I'm leaving this, I'm just gonna go look for a job. But if you love being an entrepreneur and you have a vision for your company, like we also want to create employment for other people. We want to show young girls that it can be done.
Right.
You know, that's why we I'm still in business, but it is really hard. There's a lot of challenges, but if you love what you do and you have a vision, and then you just keep it going.
It's interesting. And I think when you said lack of confidence, it's almost as if the companies that the clients that you have to work with, they initially don't have confidence in you and your business, but also that then affects your confidence in what you're doing. Yes. Because then you can begin to have reduced confidence, begin to doubt, as you say. And you've got to have, as you say, that passion and mentality that says, and other motivating, other things that are driving you for you to realize that failure is not an option. Stopping is not an option. For you to keep going. And I think that's that really also introduces another dimension that speaks a lot to the character of the person. You know, I cannot necessarily say that we are all born to be confident. You know, we struggle along the way with confidence, and when we encounter those barriers, it can just take a little bit of a pushback, and then you can quit right there. But it makes me wonder whether, as part of entrepreneurship, this notion of having resilience needs to be part of the skill set that one develops. Because most of the time you're just trained in your degree, you're not necessarily trained formally in entrepreneurship. You're not necessarily trained formally in how to run a business. And you're not trained to anticipate the challenges you're gonna come across. And even if you were trained, you cannot be prepared for everything. But what you're saying says a lot about the character of the person. And as I was saying, I'm discovering a lot about the importance of character and personality that you guys you keep revealing in bits and pieces that I'm learning about from you. So that's very interesting. But let's go to Nomandla and hear how you dealt with the part where you needed to actually move from those creative ideas and turn it into the actual business.
Okay. Before I even start telling you about that, I would just like to share something very small.
Sure.
I have learned to appreciate the experience that I had while I was in hospital. I believe that while I was transitioning into the entrepreneur that I am today, I faced a lot of challenges. I'm actually convinced that entrepreneurship would have killed me by now if I didn't have that experience that I had in hospital. Because I remember when I was in hospital, my psychiatrist used to make me write down like affirmations,
right?
And she'll make me write them like 100 times. And then when I was struggling in business in the first 3 years, I had a note on my wall that said, is stressing about it solving the problem? So that's where I actually told myself that when you stress about business, then that's where you fail to come up with solutions because you're focusing on the stress quite a lot. So even in 2019, I had a negative balance from January until December, but I was the happiest person alive. Because I told myself that if I'm stressing about the negative balance, then I will not come up with solutions for me to actually get out of that problem.
Right.
Okay, to the transitioning.
Yeah.
So like I told you that I started the business with 1,200 rands, and the first 8 months were the most difficult. It took me 8 months to sell 25 liters of dishwashing liquid. And right now, in a week, I sell more than 200 liters, you know. So in that 8 months, I learned about perseverance. And something that was stressing me a lot as well is that there are big brands that are out there and people are brand loyal. So here I am going door to door, trying to sell a product to people, a product that they don't know. And it's a product from a very short girl, you know. So when I went door to door, people kept on asking me to like leave the product on credit so they can try it out and see that it's actually a good product. And back then, a lot of people wanted foamy products. For them, if the dishwashing liquid has a lot of foam, then that means it's good quality. So I refused to give people the product on credit. But then after like passing like 10 houses, and then I was like, you know what, I haven't sold anything. Everybody wants this on credit. Okay, matter of fact, if anybody asks me for credit, I'll just leave the product on credit. So I kept on leaving the product on credit. And then I would go back after 2 days to find out about their experience, whether they love the product and whatnot. And then everybody gave me a positive response. And then again, now they're like, no, come at the end of the month when we get paid, and then you can come and collect your money. I come at the end of the month, and then there's a different story, you know. And then like even till today, I've got people owing me like 13,000 rands from doing that. I never got my money back. So that's when I decided that no, credit is a no-no for me. Okay, and then I carried on. I tried to network as much as possible so I can be able to get funding. So I also joined the Durban Chemical Cluster. I also joined the Durban Chamber of Commerce. So I was invited to a couple of events, and I remember there was this one called the Chemicals in Bizo, which is usually held at Moses Mabhida Stadium. And I got a sponsorship from the Chemicals CETA. I think they call it Cheetah. They gave me 3,000 rands. They were like, go and exhibit, and then you get to meet a lot of people. So I went there, I did exhibits, and I met the Technology Innovation Agency. The Technology Innovation Agency assisted me for some time, and then challenges came again. So I don't think as entrepreneurs we take this thing of partnership very serious when it comes to choosing the right partners in your business. So I chose my partners based on friendship. And then when the money came from the Technology Innovation Agency, we were going to lawyers. It was just very hectic. So eventually, I decided that this environment was not good for me. Again, I think this was from my experience with the depression. I'm very good with identifying things that are not good for me right now. And I do relapse now and then, but I've never ever went back into that state because
I hope this session is good for you.
Pardon, definitely, definitely. I'm still here. If it was not good for me, I would have left by now. So I saw that these guys were killing my passion. They were my friends, but when it comes to business, it just didn't work out. They were killing my passion, and for me, getting what I want, following my purpose is more important than the money, you know. So I decided to actually leave the first company. This is actually my second company. So I decided to leave and start from scratch because I then learned that when you choose partners, preferably you must choose people who are not employees, because I saw that was like the major challenge between us, because they were employed. They didn't put in like the same amount of effort that I was putting in, because they knew that they had a salary at the end of the year. At the end of the month. I was pushing because I knew that was my only income. So even when it came to the money, then it was about the money, not the goal or the purpose, you know. So I then decided to just start from scratch, and then I got a scholarship from NRF for my PhD. I took 50,000 from it and I invested it into the business. And then I kept on going alone. And in 2019, I opened a shop, my first shop. And then when I opened the shop, that's where I discovered that I just chose the wrong target market. Because yes, I was trying to solve the issues that my people had back in the rural areas. But I had more people from the middle class and the upper class wanting to buy the product, and then they'll be like, but the shop is too far, you know. And then last year, January, I opened a shop in town. And then when I opened the shop again, the shop was downtown. So I still had the issue of people wanting me to deliver to them uptown, because again, the target market was the middle class and the upper class. So I ended up like wasting a lot of money because I had to pay rent, and then I also had to have petrol to do deliveries again when I am in town. And then I thought I was lucky. Oh, and then before that, COVID happened. And then I struggled a lot with paying the rent. And then like the whole year, I was just struggling. Although I did make a lot of money in March with the sanitizers, because most people were buying for me. I remember in a week, I actually made like 200,000 rand from selling sanitizers alone. So when we had the lockdown, now people are not at the workplace, and then offices were not ordering sanitizers, and business just kept on going down. And then eventually in December, I decided, no, I'm closing down the shop, and then I'll just take a paper and a pen and just re-strategize. And then through these workshops that I go to, I met another company. It's an incubator of some sort. And I told them my story, and then they kept on following me on social media, and they saw that, okay, this one is working, but she's operating like a spaza shop, and she has potential to be big, you know. Then they invested money into the business, and then in April this year, I opened a factory in Pietermaritzburg, which has a capacity to manufacture 10,000 liters of detergents per day. And then again, I had the partnership problems, and I guess I didn't learn from that. You learned your lesson, so how can Yeah, and then I got into trouble again, and then I was going down again, and I kept on going down, and eventually I came to Kuta, and I was like, guys, can you please assist? Because I've launched this big factory now. The launch was covered by 10 newspapers. I was on 6 radio stations, and like DKM is like big now, and then suddenly DKM doesn't have stock to supply the people, you know? And then just to sum it all up, I just learned that as entrepreneurs, we look forward to selling a product and getting money from it, and then we don't take care of the big stuff. We think it's small stuff, but it's the big stuff. I think that there is no entrepreneur who should go into business without a legal advisor. If you don't have a lawyer, just know you'll be in trouble all the time. And like, you really do need one. And I learned that you need an accountant, you like somebody to work with, like with your finances, like all day, every day. The thing that we do as entrepreneurs, we only get an accountant when it's time for tax returns, or when it's time for your financials, but elsewise, we never bother about the accountant. But I feel like they are the most important.
You need to be teaching entrepreneurship. Sharon, tell us your transition. You are still in the middle of it. Let's hear how you look at it.
I would say I'm the beginning of it, because they are all established entrepreneurs. I'm nowhere near it. I'm still, you know, as was mentioned, having the people to approach, having the networking is so important. I found that every time I came upon a hurdle, it was because I wasn't able to get my idea across to the right people.
Right.
So networking is so important, and I found I also had to go straight to social media. So like I went to LinkedIn and try to approach the right people. So I'm still at that phase where I'm still trying to approach the right people, trying to show what my product can do and how it can impact on medical facilities. So I'm still right at the beginning.
So what are your thoughts about partnerships? What are your thoughts about investors, lawyers, accountants?
I need investors, I need lawyers, I need accountants, I need all of them. It's so important to have people who are experienced. Like, I mean, if you have somebody who's done business, who's able to give you that advice, to tell you, you know what, you're still starting up. Don't be silly.
Yeah.
Go the correct route. These are the steps you need to take. These are the people you need to approach. And that, because obviously I'm running around like a headless chicken trying to get people to invest or to buy my idea. Whereas if you have the people to tell you, you know what, this is the route you need to approach. This is the people you need to connect with. This is the platforms you need to sell your idea or show your idea. It's so important, because otherwise you're wasting time, you're wasting money, going the incorrect route. So for me, I'm still at the beginning.
Okay, but let's take the next issue, the final issue that I would like us to address with the time that we have left. And this is for someone like you. I mean, you've already put down an idea. You've done a lot of work, but some people who are also students have not even gotten to the stage that you are at. But here's 3 issues that I would like you to address. One is the fact that you are studying. So how do you deal with that? The second thing is the fact that there's a whole lot of other students who are also studying, who also have ideas, but they are not able to get to even the stage where you are at now. The third thing is, as a university, what is it that we can do to make your life easy? This is really what I would like us to get to. And as we kind of begin to draw to a close, let's try to see what is it that we can do as an institution if we were to become an entrepreneurial university. What is it that we would need to do to make your life easy?
So yes, with studying, it's very hard because also working, studying, I also have 2 kids.
Yes.
And a family, so it's hard to find the time in between to do all of these things. But unfortunately, you have to sacrifice. Sure. You have to sacrifice your time. You have to, obviously you have to try not to sacrifice family time, but try and work things around. So allocate your time appropriately, and how you, so like she was saying, where she was working after hours, that's what I do as well. So late at night, unfortunately sending emails to people, probably receiving messages late at night, or completing paperwork for funding, or completing paperwork to apply to certain places and to certain forums, competitions, trying to get the word, the idea out there to get people to invest.
You're sounding like an academic.
So,
like they all talk about writing papers and other things at night, in the middle of the night.
And trying to do that as well at the same time, trying to be academic, trying to work. But, during the studying, you have to sacrifice, unfortunately. Then the other students, to get to the point where I am, it just takes time sometimes, Obviously, we're all trying to rush and get to a point where we are seeing seeing the goal.
Yeah.
But it takes time to get there. I mean, it's taken me a few years now to even get the funding to create something. It took approaching the right people. So how it can assist is if we had the correct networking, if we had the correct people to approach. So I came upon InQubate after my master's, and they were able to show me the correct people to approach. But even within that, whilst they were showing me the correct people to approach, I wasn't stopping there. I was trying to go beyond that. That's and find more people, going on LinkedIn, see, are people having the same idea as me? Are they going towards a data-driven approach? So approaching those type of people, you know, who have the same similar ideals and ideas of mine, to say, oh, how far have you gotten? How can you assist me? Who have you approached? Can you give me an idea who I should approach?
Right.
You know, who have you gone through? So that's what I've been doing. A lot of networking, a lot of approaching the right people and sometimes the wrong people. Some people who are outright rejecting you, and some people are, no, you have an idea. Let's run with it. Let's see where we can go. Let's see who we can approach. So I've had a lot of support, but a lot of rejection as well. And you have to deal with that, unfortunately. And sometimes you feel, you know, you don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a part of it. It's part of the trying to be an entrepreneur.
Cool. So let's hear from you, Nomandla. What do you think? What do you think that we ought to be doing differently? I would have liked to see a situation where you did not have to learn the hard way. You know, yes, you may have started with a small business. I think Mongezi spoke about a pilot. You could have started with a small business, but it shouldn't be because you feel like you chose the wrong market. You should have been able to assess the market in the first instance. And even if you decide at some point to change your target market, be intentional about it. If you want to broaden the base in terms of your target market, it could be intentional about it. At the moment, your experience feels a bit like you're constantly learning the hard way. But are there things that we could have done to help you not have to go through all of these partnerships and problems? And right from the start, at least you've got a head start.
Okay, I've got two things.
Sure.
The first one is I feel like entrepreneurship should be part of our curriculum, because I'm sure you do know that there are a lot of graduates we are producing, but most of them are unemployed.
Right.
I think we should be taught, like at the early stages, that we do have options, because I feel like nowadays we are just following this routine where you come to school and you are graduating to get a job. I think we need these programs that will like teach us to think out of the box.
Right.
And then in that way, people will still see the value of education, because I feel like right now we are producing the graduates, and UKZN is like in the top 100 or whatever, but people are not really getting what they were hoping to get out of their education. And then we some people are like, maybe we should be like Bill Gates. He didn't have a degree, but he's a billionaire, you know. I think it should be part of our curriculum so we can like know the choices.
So as you are learning chemistry, you can think about how to take chemistry and do something with it through entrepreneurship.
Yes, exactly.
Or if you're learning biology, you can learn how to do something with it and not have to learn the hard way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then the second thing is, you know, I've been going around trying to get contracts because I learned like late in my entrepreneurship journey that this thing of getting funding is actually not hard, because when you go out there and you ask for funding, and they'll be like, you tick all the right boxes. You are black, you're female, you're youth, and you're educated. But we want to see that you'll be able to pay back the money. So the contract is the number 5. So if you've got the contract, believe me, any door is going to open. But now it's very difficult for us to get contracts out there when you are still young. You have to prove yourself that I have the capacity to actually do this. So now people don't want to give you like big contracts because they fear that you will be able to actually meet the demand. So I actually went to this other school where I was trying to find contracts. It's a school called St. Charles. And they said that we love your drive, we love the fact that you are in entrepreneurship, but we only do business with our alumni, you know? So imagine if UKZN was like that as well, where they're like, we're getting all the detergents from our own before we go out and get, no, I'm not implying anything. No, but imagine me supplying like all the campuses at UKZN, and let's say that's like 100,000 rand per month, for example.
Sure.
And then I go to a potential funder and then I tell them that, no, listen, I'm supplying UKZN and like this is my contract.
It's actually
and
not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
Thank you.
Jesus, you guys, why was I invited here? Now I think it was a bad idea. I think that you now turn this on me.
Yeah, you need the support of the institution.
Yeah.
No, it's
very true.
It's actually a good point. Noted. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yes, Viva Nomanda. Yeah, because like I also tried to approach on my own. I went to the departments and they told me, no, they're ordering from this other big company. And I was thinking it would be nice if the university was ordering from us. But
So to build a track record
Yes,
of some sort.
Yes. And also, like, it will help us to have cash flow, create employment, which is what we need. So I think, like, with entrepreneurship, we're all at different stages. I see Nomandla is, like,
Factory
well
stage.
advanced. So I just got introduced to NYDA, so they are just starting to help me. And they have this thing where they have non-financial assistance. So what they're doing is they have marketing people who help you with marketing for your business.
Right.
And they have introduced me, like, I didn't know about enterprise development because big companies like Unilever and Clicks and they have to, I think they have to help SMMEs.
Right.
So if you just sign up with them, they can be able to assist you. I didn't know about all those things. I only found out from this marketing company.
But you could have learned those things earlier, actually.
Yeah, I think it goes with the studies, because also I wasn't also full time because I was doing my master's. I have a small baby, another one coming on the way. I don't have a helper because I mentioned, like, at the moment the company is not doing that well, so I can't afford to have employees. So I have to do everything by myself.
Right.
So I think sometimes we don't have the time to actually research about such things, but if it's easily available to you, then not that you want to be spoon-fed, but you know,
I hear
because,
you, but we could give you a bit of a
a
head start.
yeah.
True?
I'm trying to remember what your first question was,
Wow.
because I feel we went on a tangent, a good tangent.
Yeah.
I think from all what the other ladies have said, for me, what's important is that the university needs to provide support that's not just financial. I mean, it's all well and good to have money, but if you don't know how to manage it and you don't know where to invest it and how to use it and who to approach with it, it's kind of like we're just wasting money.
Right.
You know, I think that's very important. I also had a supervisor that told me, you don't go looking for a job, you make a job. And it's really stuck with me. And I really think that the university needs to do more in terms of teaching students how to make jobs, how to create jobs, whether it's like, I mean, I have loads of ideas in this, but like having a think tank, you know, just a space where we just think, where we just talk creative, innovative, crazy, wacky ideas. You know what? Because some of the best businesses are birthed from that. Also having business mentor us. I think that's so vital, because again, it's the insight of an actual business person compared to us just, you know, learning from a book. I think that.
So an explicit link with industry.
Yes, I think, but even for me, it would be more than that. Like we need to have businesses, for example, if we have an outsourcing of cleaning products into the university, why is that business not taking on some of our students to employ them and to create jobs through them? I think those kinds of things need to have, and those almost like those connections need to be quite open and work both ways. I just wrote my other point that I wanted to say. I just think that there needs to be also more marketing around entrepreneurship. I honestly didn't know about InQubate until one of my colleagues, my ex-colleague, sent me a message saying, "Oh, did you know about this?" And I was like, "Oh wow, I've been in the university since a long time and I didn't know about it."
Right.
But just having the space for, like, even for us to say, okay, the next batch of kids that go through this program, here's us, here's the 4 ladies that went through this that can, adopt you for a week and teach you whatever they can teach you. I think that the university needs to move towards a space of not just education, not just teaching that education is academic. It's so much of your hand stuff and your mind stuff and your psychological stuff. The other supporting thing I would say is give students a break sometimes. We go through a lot of stuff. These ladies openly shared, the stuff that we go through, but it's not that we don't want to do our work. It's sometimes it is a lot of balancing and choosing which one is going to fall through the cracks today.
Right.
And I just think maybe more compassion towards that. I don't think anyone wants to not be educated, but also sometimes making money or having to pay for your groceries is more important than finishing your studies. So just those kinds of things. Okay. I can't remember your other questions.
No, that's good. That's very good. We're coming to the end of our session. Mongezi, you have the last word.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Firstly, I like Nomandla's idea so much. I would love to see you guys eating the crisp banana lettuce in your gatherings in future. So
love it.
My last point, I would also like to allude on the idea that entrepreneurship should be integrated into the curriculum of the university. In addition to that, I think students at all fields of study, especially those students who are learning those programs or those courses that were known to be academic problems rather than professional programs, there's vast knowledge that is in the archives of research in those programs. I'm coming from the School of Biology, and I've seen so many potential businesses from just the students who are doing honors studies. You'll be surprised the amount of businesses that you can make just from the School of Biology alone. I don't know about the academics of chemistry, but I'm sure you can still find vast amount of knowledge of businesses from there. And I think the university already knows what the future holds. They already know the decline in the job market segment. The only thing they need to do is to be proactive in supporting and making entrepreneurship the word that is the buzzword in the university at all levels of the university, starting from level 1 up to level 3 up to PhD. There should be an intention of creating businesses out of research, not just studying researchers just for publishing. I think that we have wasted a lot of time as the university by doing that, even though it's a good thing because the information stays there, and so you find that sometimes the information has been there since 2010 and now you can't cite it because it's irrelevant, but it's never been used practically, which is something that I really find as a waste of resources, since those researches cost so much. I think every research should be production and entrepreneurship orientated. in my understanding. Even in the undergrad, if I can make you an example of the microbiology, the amount of businesses that you can come up with in the microbiology industry, Prof. Let me just take you through some courses that I did in my undergrad, microbiology alone. In microbiology, I learned how to make beer. I learned how to make yogurt. You can make businesses out of those. I learned how to make biofuels. You can learn how to make biofuels, but I was never learned how to solve a problem, how to look at the problem, how to integrate the information that I learned from class and apply it in the real world. What I was taught was just for me to know what microorganisms can make yogurt, what microorganisms make biofuel. But where I'm gonna need this, I was never taught that. Hence, it was so easy for me to fail and not finish on record time because I never knew where to apply this thing. How is this thing relevant? But at the space I am now, where I've learned more courses outside the university, or outside class rather, not the university, because I still use the university Wi-Fi to watch those YouTube videos about design thinking. I credit the university for giving us free Wi-Fi a lot. We learned these skills outside class, which I think is skills that should be integrated. Design thinking is one of the buzzwords that should be integrated into the curriculum. I think lectures like Dr. Chenya and Dr. Cavenden in microbiology are on the right track because when they are giving assignments now, they are asking you to solve a problem of a particular company using microbiology. And Prof, I just ask you directly to go to the life science building and look at all the research that has been produced there and try to see how many businesses that you can create out of those research archives that are just catching dust rather than catching sense.
Yes, I've got my mandate, my marching orders from you. Thank you guys. That was wonderful, really wonderful. And I hope, Suvina, as I hand back to you to wrap up the session and close for us, that this will not be the last engagement we've had. It's been really enriching, enlightening for me, and we've noted a lot of things. And I'm looking forward to the full report of the session and to think about how we can then take these ideas forward more broadly in the university. But thank you guys for taking the time and joining us. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Mongezi, as well. Thank you, everyone. Suvina, back to you.
Thanks, Prof. And thanks so much, leaders or our student entrepreneurship leaders for sharing their thoughts and their experiences with us. It was really such a wonderful last 1.5 hours, just learning in detail, what you feel about the space. And we've been monitoring the chat. Our audience has been very active on the chat, just also sharing their thoughts as the session has proceeded. I really also want to take the opportunity to thank our academics that have made it through to the session out of your busy schedules. Prof. Glover, our Dean in the School of Clinical Medicine, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I've recognized a couple of the other academics that we work with, Dr. Singaram, Dr. Tefera. Thank you so much for being here with us, because really, as our student entrepreneurs have indicated during their messages, we really need to come together as a UKZN community. We've spoken a lot about networks, about partnerships, and really this is what makes entrepreneurship work. It's that community that you actually get together, because our students have told us this is an extremely challenging space, and the fact that they are actually doing it whilst they have such busy lives, they have their families, they have their kids, they have their studies, they have their full-time jobs and things like that. And they're managing to squeeze in this additional, very demanding activity being running a business. And they're doing it because, they really want to lead the future. Aside from unemployment being such a major challenge in our country and obviously internationally as well, it's really about, it's such a rewarding experience as they've shared. The fact that you have the opportunity to do something for your country, to do something about poverty, about crime, all of these, significant challenges that we as a society face. This is what entrepreneurs are all about. And in that very, very challenging journey that they are embarking upon, they need all of the support that we as a university can pull together. Being it from our leadership, we've had the pleasure of having our DVC here today, our leadership, our management through our deans and our academic leaders, our staff, essentially everybody coming together to really just push this message of entrepreneurship. So as Mongezi has stated, all of this research that we do, it is such powerful research, and it has the potential to really do so much in society, So really finding ways in terms of which we can translate that research into products and solutions and services that can actually make a massive difference to our country and to our society. Prof, I have noted definitely. We've all had such a brilliant time at the session. So we were actually, as you were conducting the session, we were actually planning our next session. So we will also be talking to you about that. That's going to take place in about a month's time. That's going to be Global Entrepreneurship Week. And trust me, you don't want to miss out on that session. So you'll be hearing more about that from us. So on that note, colleagues, we have taken note of all of your comments, and we will be charting the next steps. And I really, really want to ask you to work with us as InQubate. We've got a very, very strong entrepreneurship team under the DVC Researchers Office, just to work with us to grow entrepreneurship at UKZN, and to put us on the map as one of the leading entrepreneurial universities in the country. So thank you again for joining us, for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you. Take care and bye-bye.